Hey, and welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting on the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. Wasn't a beautiful Saturday for the Raiders here in the playoffs, but they got to figure it out what they want to do this offseason. We're gonna go break this down and look at where they kind of missed opportunities, if you will, against the Cincinnati Bengals. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's the day after, cutting gotten over the loss and, spinning forward to the offseason. Find out
Yeah.
what they're going to do at head coach, what does the salary cap look like, who's available in free agency, and how to fix holes in this team.
Yeah, RTPOW podcast is my Twitter handle, and RHOLM22 is Ryan's. So let's just get right to it. So I think the number one thing for me, and then I kind of want to, we can go back and forth and talk about our points through our notes of this game. I think the biggest thing that really bothered me was the fact that this game was being played at a speed like it was week 6 for the Raiders. Like it just doesn't seem like they were like ready to go from the jump street. I think do you have a Jacobs jersey on?
I do, yes.
He was ready to play. Like he was ready to play against the Chargers. He was ready to play in this game. He was the guy who was playing at full speed, but I didn't see that. I didn't think they were, and I think also the game planning of this whole offensive unit just seemed like they just wanted to just like kick field goals until they had a drive at the end of the half and drive at the end of the game. And that was pretty much it. And I think that's probably was the most frustrating thing about it. No new wrinkles, no nothing special. They had some plays by some drops, some huge drops in this game. Renfro had a huge drop on when they were down by 10 late in that game. But I just really didn't like the way this whole game plan did. And who could possibly love any of these plays to where you need touchdowns and you don't have receivers going into the end zone?
Yeah, we'll jump right into the 4th and goal play. Like, I don't know how you call curl flat with the game on the line and you have your two best weapons a yard downfield when Derek Carr throws the ball. First of all, he had to force the ball into coverage, but even if he completes that pass his agents, he's not in the end zone. We've always said on this podcast, Derek Carr doesn't throw the ball in the end zone. We saw a lot of that again this week. But that's more on the play caller. Like Greg Olson's got to have a better play in his bag than that. You got to just run 4 verticals and to throw the ball up and try to get a one-on-one somewhere on the field. Do something.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And I saw a lot of people again trashing Brandon Parker on the last play, claiming he was getting bull rushed. I watched he was blocking his guy perfectly fine. The last play of the game was not Brandon Parker's fault. I mean, I know Raider fans want to keep saying that, but it wasn't. But I think I agree with you. I think the defense came out. The first drive, didn't look like they were ready to go. They got better as the game went on. They only gave up 6 points in the second half, which was good. But they gave up 20 in the first half, or 17 because Carr fumbled again. But I didn't think the offensive line came out to play early in that game, and you kind of saw them just dragging through the mud. They had 6 points there at the 2-minute mark in the first half, but thankfully, they put a drive together. But it was 20-6.
Yeah, can I say one thing about the Carr fumble? I'm not excusing the Carr fumble because he does this too. He does it too much. He looks like he's on a corner that he owns and nobody can touch him for like 5 seconds. Like, that's not where the pocket is. You have to have that clock in your head to make sure you get the ball out of your hands. But I mean, I'm not sure how Foster Moreau ended up with Hendrickson in that play at all. But if you're going to take a holding call, and I'm not like, obviously you don't want a holding call at all, but if you're going to take one, you're outmatched on that side. If he just takes him down, is anybody going to fault Foster Moreau on that play? Like, is there anybody going to know? I'm not going to fault him on that play at all. I'm going to fault, hey, the design of the play where you're sitting there saying to yourself, why the hell is this guy being covered by why Foster Moreau blocking a guy who has 14 sacks on the season. Like, I mean, there's times where you just have to, like, I'm not sure if he was expecting, I think Jalen Richard went out for a little pass on that, a little short pass, a little check down pass on that play. I'm not sure if he was expecting him to help him on that at all. Also, it doesn't help the fact that he's staring at Waller, while Deshaun Jackson is screaming across the field, totally destroyed his man and beat him on that play as well. So, but I mean, those are kind of little things that kind of drove me crazy as far as that goes. And how about the plays getting in so low? I mean, it was like they were up against the clock every single time. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, there was a couple where they got away with delay of games. They even took a delay game, I think, in the fourth quarter on one of those drives. But on the Moreau play, that's a scheme issue. That's on the offensive coordinator. I don't know how you can have that in the game plan against an edge rusher like Hendrickson. Carr's in year 8. He's not a rookie. He's not a first or second year guy. He has to understand, hey, they have their best guy. I have a one-on-one matchup with my tight end. I can't lock onto Waller and hold the ball this long because he got beat. Frost Monroe got beat, but he got. I mean, I haven't timed it yet, but I counted like 1, 2, 3, like in the top of my head at the sports bar. I didn't have a great view of it, but it was at least 3 seconds, so he had enough time to do something. Deshaun Jackson was coming wide open. I'll check the all 22 to look at all the angles, but from the TV angle they showed, he was open, and he was staring down Darren Waller on that play. So a lot of things went wrong on that play. So it's not 100% Carr, but he's not to blame here. He had 2 more turnovers again. Those turnovers keep coming up. So if you want, at the end of the year in the totality, he ended with in 18 games, he had 24 touchdowns. I want to say 6 lost fumbles and 15 interceptions. So 24 touchdowns, 21 interceptions. You're not going to win doing that. You're not going to win going on the road, turning the ball over 2 times. I thought Jacobs was running really well. I don't know why he only got 13 carries. I know they were down in the second half, but it seemed like, other than early when he got going, it was like first down, run. And you saw the linebackers, and we talked about this on the show last week. The first time they played him, the linebackers didn't care about play action. The minute they read run, they were coming downhill, and they were doing that. So there was a lot of times where Jacobs got stopped at the line, but when he was able to get a chance, and they never really went to play action. You never saw them, stick the ball in there and then pull it out. And then I thought at one point they should just go 5 wide, go hurry up and just get going. They didn't do that. They kind of took their time with 7 minutes left when they were down by 10 to get down the field.
Yeah.
There was some bad calls, obviously, both ways in this game. I thought the illegal man downfield on Leatherwood on the ball to Jalen Richard. You can't have illegal man down the field when the ball's thrown 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It cost them about a 30-yard gain. Was erroneous, but I don't, I know a lot of people want to talk about Whistlegate. I don't think that mattered at all. That ball was out of his hands. It was going to be a touchdown. I don't think it affected the coverage. It should have been a replay of the down, but like, I'm not going to, bang my head against the wall saying they lost because of that. They played poorly. Let's face it.
Hey, Ryan, on the quote unquote Whistlegate, how many rushers were after the quarterback on that play?
I'm going to say 2 because I'm not going to count Quinn Jefferson because he kind of started his rush and then stopped. So you had 2 defensive tackles spying at the same level. Like they were the same part of the field, which, if Burrow gets outside, those guys aren't running him down anyway. So I don't understand the point of that. But again, when they went to rush 3 again this week, it failed almost every time.
Almost every time.
Why is that in the playbook?
It makes no sense. I mean, it's much better to, I don't know, blitz and have him get rid of the ball quickly. I mean, and then you rally the tackle. I mean, that's basically what you have to do in that situation. So I thought, listen, defense guy got really a slow start. Only got up 6 points in the second half. But, but still you get it. When you're in a playoff game, every second counts, as we saw in the Dallas game. Every second counts and every play counts. Every yard you give up counts. If it's 3rd and 7, if it's 3rd and 7 and you give up 6 yards, you know what? You just gave that offensive coordinator or a head coach an opportunity to go for it on 4th down. Like everything you do counts and it's magnified even more so in the playoffs. So that attention to detail was not in this game plan at all. And I think even also when do you think when Versace is in his headset, when he hears this, they're going to run, when they're at 4th down, they're
4th and 9,
4th and 9. They're not gonna run a play that has players in the end zone. Like how does that's the reason why he can't be a head coach. and I commend him for writing letters. And I think he's a great human. I think he's a really good human being. Good for him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I mean, maybe he'll probably latch on to be a special team coach somewhere else. And I think I do give him credit for the development of Cole and development of Carlson, because Carlson was kind of a little bit of a mess before he came to the Raiders. As far as that goes, he wasn't, you know, he had struggles in Minnesota. So he had he had a big leg, but he had to kind of get his career back on track. So I give him credit for that. But I mean, you hear that play call, like even today, like McCarthy, when McCarthy heard that play call, you can't, you have to say no, Kellen. That's not happening. We're gonna take 2 chances throwing the ball into the end zone, and we'll see if we can get lucky and maybe get a touchdown out of this. I mean, that's what you have to hope for.
Yeah, the 4th and 9 play, that's day one install, curl flat in the offense. So I'm not going to put it all at Carr, but at some point it's year 8, man. Like, put it on you, like audible out of that. You can't run that play. Like, he has to know in the huddle too, we can't run this play. Brett Favre's not running that play. Brett Favre's audibling. I'm not calling him Brett Favre, but I've seen people on Twitter say he's better than Brett Favre, but I don't want to get started on that conversation. But and the defense, I was really disappointed again. Gus Bradley's defense is good to keep yardage down. He's not going to give up big plays down the field, but I'm sitting there watching the game going, Jamar Chase is roasting whoever's on him, but they can't double him. When you're playing cover 3, you can't double team guys. Mm-hmm. Like, they're never going to be in a defense where they can double team the guy and take him out of the game plan. So really good quarterbacks. And let's face it, Joe Burrow is a good quarterback. They're going to slice this defense when they need to. And they had to. Curls, flats, slants, comebacks, the out routes, deep out routes on the outside. They can scheme up, and they can get a linebacker on a guy down the seam.
And they're all high percentage, percentage plays.
They can get whatever they want whenever they want, as long as the defensive line doesn't get there. So if the pass rush isn't there, and I know a lot of Raider fans too, I've talked to them yesterday and today, and they're like, well, the pass rush didn't get there. And I'm like, the pass rush cannot get there on a 3-step drop and he's getting rid of the ball in 2.5 seconds or less. You just can't. And at some point, we talked about it, they needed to switch it up and try to play man. Even if you play man, then you can still double team Chase and you take your chances with the other guys. They did it.
And in this defense, they play a side, right? These corners.
They typically play a side,
so
Hayward
right?
usually is onto the passing strength, and usually face-ons on the weak side, where in cover 3 he'll play man a lot more. They usually play man to the backside in cover 3 when they get a single receiver on that side. But normally Hayward is on the strong side of the formation.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're wondering, hey, why don't you just, I think Darius Slay had that comment today about he didn't make the Pro Bowl, but he actually travels with the team's best receiver here. They had that 4th down with like, I had this in my pet peeve section with Derek too, is that just because you get what you think is where the flag comes from, it's going to be probably a holding or a pass interference. You can still put the ball on the receiver. Like, you don't have to throw it like 8 miles. He throws the ball 8 miles over his head to the point where, they could actually, if they wanted to call, uncatchable ball, they could call an uncatchable ball, and you don't get the flag. That I think was a 4th down to where Moreau. It was a good thing they had pass interference, because he missed Renfro right across his face, who was wide open by a good 10 yards. So like that was bothersome. But like, put the ball on Moreau. Like, the guy's falling down. It's a touchdown. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it probably is a touchdown if you do that. So he always throws the ball out of bounds. And I'm not sure how the running game just didn't get implemented anymore. It was hard in this game because Boger's crew is just gonna, every time the Raiders get a run or a big play, it just seemed like it was holding on every single one. I didn't, it's hard for me when I watch all 22. Like, I know for you and me both for all season, like, there's definitely times where there's a big run and Jefferson gets held, or there's a Perryman or any of those guys get held, and there's never a flag on those plays. It's impossible to like kind of go back and forth with that. But I mean, it was just a mess as far as that goes. I mean, I just kind of felt bad because I think he was game ready. I also think that he was, last 2 weeks he caught the ball well out of the backfield. Like, I think sometimes you saw in Jacobs, he kind of fights the ball. He caught it smoothly as well too. So I thought he was kind of the best Raider the last couple of weeks in this run to the playoffs.
Yeah, I all three of those were clearly holding penalties. Simpson, Leatherwood, and
hands
James.
outside.
Those
right?
were all,
yeah.
Those are all penalties, and those two guys, especially Simpson and Leatherwood, that their technique has been terrible all year. They get by with brute strength and try to muscle guys up, and they're not good technicians, and they haven't been all year. So I don't know what's going on with the offensive line coach and why that continues to be a problem, but that has to get cleaned up. I thought Carr came out, and early on he was okay. I thought there was a point there where he kind of got rattled for a few possessions. He settled down before the half, and clearly in the fourth quarter he played a little bit better. But they need him for 4 quarters. They need the defense for 4 quarters. And I tweeted it. This isn't an anti-Derek Carr podcast today, but I don't think the offense played well enough. I don't think the defense played well enough. I don't think the special teams played well enough, and they clearly got out coached. I thought Gus Bradley had a bad game. I thought Greg Olsen had a bad game, and Rich Bisaccia special teams. What is Peyton Barber doing? Special teams coaches or your head coach, you can't do that. You can't just pick up the ball and walk out of bounds at the 2-yard line and act like what just happened. You can't have Hunter Renfrow dropping punts when he has a clear lane. There's not anyone 15 yards around him when you can set up a big return when you're down by 10. And, I thought Renfrow, for, as well as he's played this year, that's probably his worst game in a couple of months. He had a big drop on a play down the sideline. He dropped the punt. He just didn't seem like he was the normal factor. I thought Darren Waller still looked rusty. There's a lot of things that went wrong in that game, but I'll give the Raiders credit that they fought. It came down to, the red zone again, where they went 1 for 5. That continues to be a problem, but they had a chance at the end. And I guess that's all we could have asked for. It didn't go their way yesterday. And it's tough on the road to win when you're creating penalties, when you have a second and goal from the 9 run, which I'm anti second and goal. Anytime you're outside the 6 and you're running on second and goal, you might as well just kick a field goal. I'm anti it. They did it on the 9. They got a good run down to the 1. Penalty sets you back, and you end up kicking a field goal. But they have to figure out how to score touchdowns. And this isn't an issue that's this year. This has been going on Derek Carr's entire career, except for his rookie year. They were first in the league in red zone, but they also had the fewest attempts in the league. So that's kind of misleading. But this has been an issue. They've been in the 20s for 4 straight years. You have Renfrow. You have Waller. You have guys. Moreau showed that he's okay in the red zone at times. You have Edwards where you can throw back shoulder fades. You have ways to scheme guys open. I'm watching Kansas City have Travis Kelce throw touchdowns.
Why is everybody
reverse passes and underhand? I mean, it's like watching the Harlem Globetrotters and trying to watch the Raiders score from the 5-yard line. I want to pluck my eyes out. Like, they have to do something. Yeah. They didn't even use Mariota in the red zone. Obviously, you're not going to do it in the fourth quarter when you're down 10 plus points.
Yeah,
but they didn't try it at all. And I just thought they had circles run around him from the coaching perspective. And
Callahan did a good job.
Yeah, I'm just, waking up today. They need to improve at the head coach. I love what Rich Bisaccia did for this team. I love how he kept everyone together. I love how he rallied them. He is not a head coach in this league. He's not a decision maker when the pressure's on. He's a great leader of men. I'll give him that, but I don't want him running the operation. I don't want Greg Olsen calling plays. Gus Bradley, to me, like I said, he's good to come in. Guys will know the system. They're not going to make a ton of mistakes, but they're not going to create turnovers. They're not going to blitz. They're not going to get sacks. And this year they weren't very good in the red zone. So hopefully they can clean that up. But we'll see what happens on the coaching front. But I wouldn't be surprised if all 3 of those guys get replaced.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think you have to replace all 3. I mean, it's not, for Gus, I feel a little bit, my heart goes out a little bit to him, because I felt like he came in, thought he was coming to a team that had a high powered offense, and he was going to be able to come in and just play his cover 3, hold people down with leads. And they've done a good job in a lot of these games. I mean, besides the Kansas City game, the 2 Kansas City games, like, they were in every single game, and it was because of this defense, because the offense was really that poor. And these guys who on Twitter who want to say, we need a number 1 receiver, we need this, we need that. It's like, it doesn't really matter because when you look at the all 22 and Deshaun Jackson has somebody beat, Zay Jones has somebody beat, and the ball is still thrown to the flats or not thrown where it should be. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's going to be different because he has Devontae Adams here. Like get off of the wide receiver part of it. Like let's just get off the wide receiver part of it. Like you need to. You have in your tweet today. You had a list of everything they need, and you have to sit there and say to yourself, okay, if it is going to be Harbaugh, whoever's going to take over this team, what can we fix in the draft, and what can we fix in free agency, and what can we develop in house? Like that's the way you have to approach this offseason to see how you can fix this team because let's be real, like there's a hierarchy now in the AFC. The hierarchy I guess you got to put the Bengals in there. You got to put
Chiefs,
you got to put
Bills,
the
Bengals,
Chiefs. You got to put
Patriots are
the
going to be
Bills in
there.
there. I mean, the Patriots are going to be around there, but I still think unless I don't know if I don't know if their quarterback's ever going to be to that level. But I mean, they
Tennessee.
played Tennessee's there. Like I mean, there is there, and you made like I said, like they had the fifth best overall record in the conference. I think I think they did a good job and they had that was a good accomplishment for the team. But now when you make the playoffs, you have to say, okay, how do we get to that next level where we can contend with Kansas City, that we can contend with Tennessee, that we can contend with Buffalo. I mean, watching Buffalo, watching Josh just throw rainbows off his back foot 80 yards on the field for touchdowns. I mean, that was, wasn't expiring as far as that goes. So like, I mean, and against Belichick, no less. So you can't worry about what everybody else is doing. You got to clean up your own mess first before you can contend with that team. But I think part of it is, I think really the only way I can see the Raiders contending with those teams if they just take the model that the Niners have. Try to get as many good players as you possibly can and play good defense, rush the passer, and run the football. I think that's the best way of doing it. I mean, Deebo Samuels don't fall off trees. Had a chance to get Deebo Samuels, but
they had a couple of chances to get Deebo
and they could, and they obviously didn't see the talent that everybody else saw. But I think that's the real. That's why I like the Harbaugh factor. If they can get Harbaugh and try to be a run for a kind of run first team, power football, move the chains. I'm not saying not pass at all, but like play action football, all those things like that. That could probably be the best way for this team to contend with those teams because you're not going to be able to do it as far as just lining up 5 wide, 4 wide, whatever, and then pass all day with likes of Kansas City and Buffalo.
Yeah, clearly the hierarchy to me is you're chasing Kansas City and Buffalo, and we'll see what happens in Cincinnati. But the elephant in the corner of the room is Josh Allen's still on a rookie contract. They can still add to that roster for another year or two before they have to really pay him big money. Joe Burrow has 3 more years in Cincinnati, and free agents are going to want to go there. The Chargers, even though they finished the game ahead of the Raiders, they have 3 more years of Herbert on a rookie deal, so they can keep loading up that roster. The Raiders don't have that luxury. And we're not even talking about Baltimore. They were hurt all year. What happens when Baltimore gets healthy? So this is a crucial offseason where they're going to have to figure out who the head coach is going to be, what are the systems going to be, who are they going to add, how are they going to add them, and this is going to make the decisions they make this offseason will affect them for the next 3 or 4 years because they've lost a ton of talent on this team with missed draft picks that are going to start to show up with holes on this roster. Ruggs is gone. Arnett's gone. Muse is gone. Third round, not that Muse is good, but third round picks aren't on this team anymore. Leatherwood, I see a lot of people today saying sign a guard and throw him out bat and rack tackle. The guy can't play guard. What makes you think he can play tackle? Like I don't see him going back to right tackle next year. I don't see another coach coming in and saying, yeah, let's try this guy at right tackle. They're going to try to clean him up inside a guard and try to cover him up. So it's going to be an issue. But, they have some talent on this team. And if they get the right system, and I see a lot of people, I've seen a lot of tweets the last couple of days saying that Brian Flores is a better coach than Jim Harbaugh. And we'll see. That might be true. But I got questions about Brian Flores. If he comes in and can he run the system he ran in Miami, playing cover zero all the time with the cornerbacks playing man coverage that are on this roster right now?
Mhm.
I don't think he can. You can't go out there and play man coverage 80% of the time and go cover zero and leave those guys an island. You have zone corners on this roster.
Mhm.
Do we know that Nate Hobbs can play man coverage? Because he was just playing curl flat the whole season. He wasn't playing man coverage.
Mhm.
Hayward can't. We know that. Faison can't. Mullen, he might be okay. He might fit that scheme, but you might need 2 or 3 corners to run Flores' scheme. And who's going to be his offensive coordinator? He's had 3 different guys in 3 different years. Can you have the offense severely regress? You want Chan Gailey running the offense? We saw how that happened, how that worked in Miami. So um, I kind of agree with you. This team needs an identity, and it needs to be power football. They need to feed Josh Jacobs. They need to
Feed
fix
him.
the line. Derek Carr can play. He's good enough at late in games and halves to score points. They need to really build up the defense, and that's how they're going to have to win. This isn't going to be a wide open 30 plus points a
No.
game. We're going to try to beat Dallas and play defense.
But if you get
And
turnovers, you can
yeah,
score more points.
yeah.
You can get more
I've had
points.
a lot of people today send me a lot of questions about Fangio, saying we can't play a 3-4. I completely disagree. I think Max Crosby will be perfectly fine as an outside rusher in a 3-4. TJ Watt can do it. What's the difference between TJ Watt and Max Crosby athletically?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
No.
TJ
He's a
Watt's not playing in coverage 70% of the time. I don't know why people think like Max Crosby can't do it. And then on the other side with Ngakoue, he did it in Baltimore. I know it wasn't a fit, but is he going to set the edge as a run defender in a 3-4? No, but he's probably once you go to nickel, you're rushing both those outside guys anyways, and
yes.
you're removing the nose tackle. So he just wouldn't be on the field in base defense, but you could run him out there. And Malcolm Kuntz could probably play outside linebacker. Perryman could play inside. He's done it.
Yeah.
I'm sure Diablo would be fine as an inside backer because he can cover. You need guys that can run and cover to play inside. So I think the front would be fine. Phylon could play defensive end. You can find 300-pound, 290-pound Damian Squares and those guys and just plug them in because you don't need them to get sacks. You just need them
To
to eat
plug
up
in the middle.
blocks.
Yeah.
You just need a nose tackle. I think they have all the other pieces on this roster already to play a 3-4. Then they need to figure out who the corners, and you absolutely need a safety that can cover. I don't think Abram's going to succeed in a 3-4 defense for what they're going to ask him to do. He'd have to be a nickel backer or a sub package linebacker at that point. But I think you're right. I think this needs to be a run first, play action, tight end, Renfro. You want to get that speed receiver that you can take shots with. Go ahead and do it. I don't think they need the big time $20-25 million a year outside receiver. I think there are pieces here. And if they had that, Harbaugh doesn't run that kind of offense anyways. So we'll see what happens. But, the guy won with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. I know Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator. From everything I've read, trying to do as much research on Harbaugh, it sounds like Roman called play down to Harbaugh. Harbaugh then would call it into the quarterback. So he was basically the gatekeeper. He would say yes or no, and he could change it. So we'll see what happens. But I think whoever comes in, I don't think Harbaugh's going to be the play caller, but I think he's going to have a lot of say in what the offense does, and they need an identity. And they were getting one towards the end of the year. I wish they could have got the running game going about week 6 instead of week 13 or 14.
Yeah.
But that's where this team needs to go. And if you have that kind of system, do you want to pay the quarterback $35 million? I don't know. So I'm fully in the camp where I think Derek Carr is the quarterback in 2022. Mm-hmm. I would not give him an extension personally. I'd let him play it out at $19 million and see what happens. I don't know if his camp or his agent's going to want to do that. I think he has enough loyalty to the organization to do it because it's win-win for him. If they get back to the playoffs, they're going to franchise him because they're not going to let him walk. So either way, he's going to get that extension in the next 12 months. It's does he want to play another year under a new coach? And I don't think he's going to try to force his way out of town. But I don't think they're in a situation where you're going to hand over, a 5-year, $180-190 million contract to him and give him $80+ million guaranteed, because then you're tied to the hip for 5 years no matter what.
I think this could be like a Flacco thing where bet on yourself. Like you're good. You're supposed to be, you're supposed to be good. If you listen to some people on Twitter,
Cousins, he's made a lot of money betting on himself.
Yeah, bet on yourself. Yeah, bet on yourself. Bet on yourself and do that. The offensive line, you mentioned Munchak, right?
He's a potential guy that could come over. He's free and he knows Fangio.
Yeah, and I'm saying to myself, in that situation, do you feel like do you feel like they need a lot of people from a lot of players from outside, or do you think like, I mean, you can't get you're not gonna be able to get 4 offensive linemen. So in one off season, they probably maybe get one guy and then a backup, like and then a backup. So if they're able to, if can Munchak help with the technical part of what's wrong with Leatherwood and what's wrong with Simpson, because they are big dudes who can move people. They just have to keep those hands. I mean, my thing is, the biggest thing is that keeping those hands outside the shoulder pads all the time. Where when you do that, I mean, it's what's going to happen. It's going to be you're going to sit there and be, get called for holding almost every time, making it easy for the officials on that one.
Yeah, I think if he comes in, you could do that. I would expect that they absolutely need another guard that can start. So I think you take those two guys, you take Simpson and Leatherwood, and you let it compete for one spot. You don't want both of them playing. So hopefully
Okay.
Leatherwood technique improves to where he can stay at right guard. You absolutely need to go find a right tackle. I would rather have a veteran. I don't want a rookie right tackle learning next to Leatherwood if he's playing right guard. That could be a disaster. So you absolutely have to get a bookend tackle for Colton Miller. And then I would think they might try to upgrade at the center. I know Andre James got better, but they're paying him a decent amount of money where this contract's going to kick in. I don't know how Mike Munchak feels about Andre James, but that could be a position where they could try to upgrade. But clearly, if you had to pick two, they need a starting guard and a right tackle for sure. They have to upgrade those two positions. The guard you could probably get, you could probably get a guy in the draft, third, fourth round. Guards aren't they. You can find veteran guards that can come in and just be an average contributor. I think the Raiders just got in a position where they lost Incognito and Good, and then they're running out a second-year guy with not much experience under his belt, and then a rookie learning a new position. So it wasn't ideal. But offensive line shouldn't be that hard to fix in off season. The Chargers fixed their entire offensive line in one off season.
Yeah, that's true. No question about it. It all depends on who's teaching, who's teaching that as well. You got names like Sheriff out there, so I don't know if that anyone want to go that high off the totem pole. You do got if you want to go to a veteran center. I think Kelsey from the Eagles is a free agent too as well. He's 34. He's 34 years old.
I think Munchak likes bigger, powerful players like he had in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to spend money, you have to spend it on a right tackle. That position has to get fixed because then you don't have to worry about chipping. You don't have to worry about keeping a back or a tight end in.
Yeah.
It'll cover up for some of Leatherwood's, inexperience and technique issues. If you have a guy next to him that's pretty good, especially when they run those games, him and Parker just could never get on the same page with stunts. That was an issue the entire season.
I mean,
so I think maybe Morgan Moses with the Jets, who was with Washington. He's a veteran. He's probably 30, 31. He's a big guy. He's good in the run game. Just need a guy that can come over and hold it down. We're not looking for a Pro Bowl level player, but and then you absolutely have to draft an offensive tackle as well with one of those picks this year to come in and groom behind those two guys because there is no depth along the offensive line.
And that's the one thing about last year's draft where it was a little frustrating. I mean, I like the draft. I like some of the players they picked up, but it was a draft for offensive linemen, and they took one.
I was banging the table for Spencer Brown all off season, and he's starting it for I think he's starting for Buffalo, and I think they're still playing. And he had a pretty good season. But,
they are playing. They are playing pretty good.
Yeah. I think they hung almost half 100 and pitched a perfect game against the Patriots and Bill Belichick. But
but what do we know? That was definitely a time to double up because I think your offensive woes are really, they have holes on the offensive line in San Francisco, but it's a little bit easier to hide those holes because they run the ball so damn much. And they play action, so that gives them a little bit more time as well. So
and it's creative. It's not inside zone, outside zone. It's not the same 4 running plays.
Dude, I don't know what you do. Basically, I was joking with somebody today, and I was just like, when I grow up, I want to be Deebo Samuel. The dude is just, what they do with him is just sick. All the time, and the little cutbacks he has all the time. It's just crazy. And even when he runs wide, you think he might throw it down the field because he did it a couple of weeks ago and had a touchdown pass against the Rams too. So that creativity is pretty good. Once he gets a running game going, it's pretty much ridiculous as far as that goes. Anything else about this game? This game was do you think one thing I had, because I was in a Twitter Spaces today. Do you feel like this is who Gus Bradley is, or do you feel like maybe it's a situation where they had so many injuries, there's so many pieces, so many pieces, people starting who weren't supposed to be starting, some practice squad people on this team, stuff like that. Do you think that he would have done more, or because his track record says he probably would have kept on playing the same cover three stuff?
No, I think it is who Gus Bradley is,
Yeah,
and I think the only thing you could see is if he had another safety that he trusted. Maybe they put a little bit more too high, maybe a little bit more cover four, but he's going to
yeah,
play cover one or cover three. But I thought he'd mix it up way more. I don't think they played cover one very much at all. They did when they went to dime on a lot of third down packages when Levitt was in.
yeah.
I just don't think he trusted that second safety, no matter who it was, whether it was Abram, Levitt, or Teamer. So that's clearly a position they need to get better at. I was disappointed that they traded up for Tyree Gillespie and they never trusted him to put him on the field. I think that's a red flag on that draft pick because there was plenty of opportunities for him to play this year
Mhm.
and they just didn't do it. So I don't know what that tells me about him moving forward, but we'll see.
Let's see.
Hopefully
Yeah.
he can cover because the other guys on the roster can't, other than Merrick.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it. Yeah. That's not good. That's not good. All right. So we got a listen, a playoff season for the Raiders. Still work to be done. I think we have the body of work. The one thing about Flores that you mentioned, Flores, people are saying Flores is better than Harbaugh. And I just think people are really like trying to like paint this picture of Harbaugh sucking somewhere.
They all say, "Well, what has he ever won?" I
I
think he
just
went
do.
to 3 NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl in 4 years, and I think
Yeah,
he just won the Big Ten, but I
yeah,
could be wrong.
I could be. Yeah, I'm not sure what people are talking about as far as that goes. But Flores is basically, I think his um his his thing what that he's doing now is that I guess he has this great relationship with Deshaun Watson and basically telling people that if he goes to this place, that's who's coming with him. And I'm not sure legally what's going to happen with that whole situation with Deshaun Watson. But I mean, that's something that he's smart for doing that, I guess. I mean, it kind of gives him a little leg up in that situation. It kind of answers some questions about what he wants to do offensively. It's like, hey, I'm bringing if you're the Giants, hey, I'm bringing myself, and I'm bringing Deshaun Watson, even if he's banned for a year, we get him the year after, and we get a draft pick. We have a good draft class, and then we add that to what we have with Deshaun Watson. So I'm not sure. We'll have to see what happens as far as that goes. But I mean, I'm not sure. Who talked to you about Favre not being better, Carr being better than Favre. That's kind of crazy. But go ahead.
I think the Watson talk is premature, because clearly he's talking to Chicago. They're not going to trade for Watson. They have Fields. Texans don't want Watson. They've already had him, and he doesn't want to play for the owner. So those are the two teams he's interviewed with. And clearly, if the interviews with the Raiders and he tells them that, I think that they would probably not do anything until the legal situation split out. And even then, the cost might be prohibitive to do it. And you might be better off just holding on to Carr as much as, I think they're different level quarterbacks. I think Watson's a much better quarterback, but I don't think he's that much better to where you want to give up 3 first round picks to get him. Houston's not going to give him away. Maybe the Giants, that might be a fit because they have multiple first round picks and they don't want Daniel Jones anymore. But, I think that might hinder Brian Flores more than anything. But he has to be careful because he's only going to get one more chance. He's not going to get a second job, then he's not going to get a third one. So he needs to be picky about the team he goes to, which is why I don't think he ends up in Houston. I know a lot of people are connecting that dots, but why would you take the Houston job if you know you only have one more shot? You can't. You're not going to win. 4 years from 3, 4 years from now, he's going to get fired again.
Yeah, exactly. That's for a first time. That's a first time guy who comes in and they say, "Oh, look what he did. He turned around Houston." You know what I mean? So like, yeah, no, never play.
That's for Jared Mayo. That's for the Dennis Allens when he first got the Raiders job. Those kind of coaches, not a guy that's had a lot of success somewhere, or a guy at the end of his career.
Yeah,
a guy that might maybe Jim Caldwell wants to get back in, and that's his only opportunity. A guy at the latter stages. So I don't think Brian Flores takes that job unless they just give him a ton of money and a ton of years. Like maybe they have to give him 6 years with 75 million dollars. You might entice him to take that job where he has long-term job security, but he's not taking that job for 2 or 3 years.
No, No, it's crazy. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Yeah, you're right. He does have to be careful as far as that goes. Because you never know. You never know how that's going to go. But I think that the one spot. Listen, if he wants to take Watson to the Giants, it's fine with me. Get him out. I don't want him. I just don't want him in the AFC West. As far as that goes, I don't want Watson in the AFC
Yeah, I
West.
don't think he ends up in Denver. I still think it's Dan Quinn there, which I hope happens. Because that would be good for Raiders fans. I don't think Dan Quinn's going to be a great head coach.
Yeah, I mean, like his defense too. Like, do you feel like he maximized the talent that was on that defensive unit? Like, I feel like you can move the football on them. Like, you can get whatever play you want against the Cowboys defensively. I mean, offensively.
I think Trayvon Diggs is still looking for Brandon Ayuk because he was juking him all over the place today.
Dude, that was nuts. He plays. I mean, he went from cover 3 to like crazy man. Like it's like his man defense is not.
I've heard of a 1,000-yard receiver. I don't think I've ever heard of a 1,000-yard cornerback. Like he gave up 1,000 yards receiving this year.
Did he really?
Yeah, he gave up the most receiving yards of any cornerback in the league. He's basically a bigger version. I was talking to my buddy who's a 49ers fan today.
Yeah.
If you remember Terrell Buckley.
Yeah.
Like he'll take it and he'll give it away. He'll make some spectacular plays, but he's also giving up a ton of touchdowns going over his head. So
that's nuts.
Those 11 interceptions are great, but what happens when that regresses and he gets 3 or 4 interceptions and he gives up 1,000 yards? He's not the same player.
Yeah, it's not Madden. All right, we'll see you later in the week. Right. Put on Raiders podcast. See you next time. Okay.